गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. This time we are seeing a particular incident, a story from Bhagavad Mahapuran, and it is the story of Kapil Muni. Kapil Muni was one of the incarnations of the Lord Narayana. There are 10 main incarnations of Lord Narayana, but this is one of the, like Maharishi Vedvyas also was an incarnation of Narayana. Similarly then, and what is the importance of this particular incarnation? He gave the knowledge of Sankhya. Sankhya means the knowledge of numbers, how to categorize the whole creation into various aspects of it, and that clarity he gave us. And here it is told that his parents, Kardam Rishi, who was a son of Brahmaji, and his wife Devahuti, they were together, they have enjoyed their life, and they have got few daughters, 9 daughters I think, and then eventually he has been promised that the Lord, he does lot of tapasya, and he, as a result of dan, tapasya, bhakti, etc., the Lord blesses him and he says that I will come to you as your own son, and to you and Devahuti. And then eventually one day, here it says, Dhruta vratasi bhadram te damena niyamena cha tapodra vinadanaischa shraddhaya cha ishwaram bhaja. So through vrata, that is austerity, dama, control of senses, niyama, control of by regular practice and abhyas, tapa, through tapasya, through dan, charity, shraddha, which is bhakti and faith, and through this he prepared himself to become the apt vehicle through which the Lord can appear and express. And when he did that, what do you mean by this? Why do we need to do all this? Why do we need to take the name of the Lord? Why do we need to do pujas, etc., etc.? Why do we need to come to satsang? I can understand everything. See, just like you cannot go to a gym and pick up 100 kgs on the first day, it requires regular practice for you in order to build up the strength, and not, you may lift 100 kg the first time, second time you will not be able to lift it. Then to be able to lift 100 kgs on a regular basis, you need to develop muscles, and for that regular practice is required. You have to invoke the strength, you have to build your muscles. And exactly the same way, in order to hold the Lord within yourself, you need to develop not only the physical but also the mental muscles. And what are those muscles? How are they developed? They are developed through charity, they are developed through faith, they are developed through austerity, they are developed through control of mind, control of senses. That is how you develop. And eventually, when this is done, and this was told, because the child is born to whom? Yes, it is born to the parents, but who carries the child? The mother carries the child. Here Devahuti, the mother of Kapil Muni, she is being told by her husband that you do all these austerities, so that the child can be held by you. You can keep him in your womb. And she is not like you and us. What is that? Oh, you are telling me to do the practices, but what about you? Here it is immediately 50-50, isn't it? The husband should also do it. If you are telling me to cook, you must do washing. If you are telling me to vacuum, you do the gardening. If I am washing the bed sheets, then you iron the bed sheets. You take them off from the hanger outside, from the clothesline. This is not how life is not a calculation. Life is a matter of love. And love expresses only as sacrifice. Not just from wife's part, from the husband's side also. So here there is no competition that Devati is saying, oh husband, you are telling me to do all the hard works and you are doing nothing. But he is already a rishi, understand? So he is preparing his wife so that she becomes a carrier in which the Lord can descend. See? So if we want, now for all of us the time has gone. We can't become the carriers anymore. But a subtle way, yes, not physical way, but yes, the Lord, we can become the carriers of Lord in our heart and mind. That is possibility still. That is the spiritual way then. And in this way, and Kardam Rishi tells Devahuti, O Devahuti, when this child is born to you, your name and fame will be spread throughout the world because of this son. You will become famous because of your son. And having said that and having practiced all the things that her husband had told, she started seeing auspicious omens everywhere. That she is pregnant and that she is going to have a child. And the Lord had promised Kardam Rishi that through his vitality he will be born. So in this manner, and the Kardam Rishi tells Devahuti that this child which is born to you, he will propagate the knowledge of Sankhya Shastra to the whole world, and he will be called the Lord of the Siddhas. Who are Siddha Purush? Who are Siddha Purush? From whom capabilities expressed naturally, Siddhis expressed naturally. And Siddhas are such people who are completely surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord uses that particular person. Again, they don't want liberation. He sends them again and again for the benefit of the world, to bless the world, to take the pains of the people away. And Siddhas can be in many different fields. Some of them are in Jyotish, some astronomy, in medicine, and many different ways they appear. I am just giving you one or two. And in this way, this Kapil, who is going to be your son, he will become very, very famous. And they also had 9 daughters, and their names were Kala, Anasuya, Shraddha, Havirbhu, Gati, Kriya, Khyati, Arundhati, and Shanti. And after having the child was born, Kardam Rishi, what is every parent's dream? Every parent's dream as a father, you want to get your children married as quickly as possible so that you are free. Because what was the purpose? Because they were very clear. It was not because so that I can enjoy my holidays, no more responsibilities. No. They wanted to get their children married, the rishis, so that they can take sannyas, they can take vanaprastha, they can go and meditate on the Lord and realize. They saw that life is, as a rishi, their duty towards the society was produce kids, give them good samskar, give them good education, get them married in the in a respected families, and then withdraw from the family. No time for grandchildren and all that. Little bit time, but eventually go. And when it is a rishi, no grandchildren, get married, get out, do your own thing. Because what is the goal? Goal is not to indulge in family. The goal is to realize the self, realize the Lord. That was the goal. So in this manner, he got on. See, all these 9 daughters of Kardam Rishi were married to 9 rishis. Kala was married to Marichi, Anasuya was married to Atri, Shraddha was married to Angira, Havirbhu was married to Pulatsya, Gati was married to Pulaha, Kriya was married to Kratu, and Khyati was married to Bhrigu, and Arundhati was married to Vashishta, and Shanti was married to Atharvana Rishi, and this way all the 9 daughters of Kardam Rishi were married to 9 rishis, and that is how Kardam Rishi was the son of Brahma. Who are these rishis? They are also sons of Brahma. But how will the creation multiply? The creation will multiply only when there is a wife. So Kardam Rishi produced the children, and these daughters got married to all the rishis. After having done his duty, so then he says, Bahujanma vipakvena samyag yoga samadhina drashtum yatante yatayaha shunyagareshu yatpadam sa eva bhagavanadya helanam naganayat naha gruheshu jato gramyanam yaswanam pakshaposhana. He says, O Lord, Kardam Rishi is telling, O Lord, you have given this Sankhya Yoga, you have given this Upadesh, and for that purpose you have taken birth, and with this everyone will get benefited, and you are born. Who is Lord? Who has these 6 qualities? One is Aishwarya, one is Vairagya. Aishwarya means lordship over everything. He has got everything. There is nothing lacking in him. Then Vairagya, he is totally detached to everything. Then Yash, he is famous, he is well known everywhere, his glory is everywhere. Gyan, he is all knowing. And Virya, he has lot of vitality, he never gets tired. There is creative vitality within him. And Shri, he has got all the wealth that you can think of. Not only the physical wealth, but also the spiritual wealth. And anyone with these 6 qualities is called as Bhagwan. And there are many people who are born, or the Lord has manifested through in those forms, who have come on this planet and gone away. Even Sri Krishna, when he was born, he was having all these 6 qualities. See, just like here, Kapil Muni is born, and Kardam Rishi is reminding this young child that this is the purpose that you are born for. Why? You have to give Sankhya Yoga. Similarly, the story comes in Krishna Avatar. Krishna has done his Ras Leela, he has played the dance, the Gopi dance, and then after that, he is sitting there, and Narad Muni comes and he says, oh Lord, your purpose is not just to play the Ras Leela. There is a bigger role that you have to play. And what is that role? You have to kill Kamsa. He doesn't say you have to kill. He says, oh Lord, I am seeing the future. I see that in few days time Akrur will come. I see that you will be taken to Kamsa, and on the way you will kill Kuvalapid, you will kill Mushtika Chanur, then you will kill Kamsa. Not only that, I am also seeing that in the future you will become the cause of the death of many demons, Rakshasas. And this way he tells the entire biography of Krishna, what is going to happen, as if Krishna doesn't know. But we can take it in this way that a child needs a reminder. So here Kardam Rishi is reminding the Lord Kapil that this is what you are going to do. Swachhanda Shakti Kapila Prapadye. And therefore the Kardam Rishi says that, O Lord, who is having and manifesting such independent power within himself, to such Kapil Muni, to such a sage, I do my prostrations. And anyone, then he said that having had your darshan as my own child, or I have, all my desires have been fulfilled. If Lord was to appear in front of you right now, what will you say? Is there anything to say? See, only a prepared mind will not ask anything from the Lord. Because where the Lord's, just a look of the Lord, a touch of the Lord can purify all your samskars, all your subconscious mind. To that Lord you are going to ask, please heal me, please make my child pass, please take away my disease, please get me married. This is the boon that you will ask from the Lord. The mere presence of the Lord purifies you once and for all. If this conviction is there in your heart, then this is what will happen. And Kardam Rishi, he says that merely by your presence, you are born to me, all my desires remain fulfilled. That means I don't want to go after any desire to fulfill. And what else? All my duties are done having you being born to me. What are the duties that we have? We have duties towards our parents, we have duty towards our guru, and we have duties towards our society. These are the three duties we have. But he says, all my duties remain fulfilled, that you are born in my family. So please give me permission to go and meditate in the forest. I don't want to stay here in the society, in the family anymore. Can you hear me because of this? Okay, band kar do. Should I close it?
No.
Huh?
You can hear.
Okay. And he says that I have become completely free, and in this way, having told that, having become free, so you find out where you are stuck. Are you still stuck in, have you done the right thing with your parents? Have you done the right thing towards the society? Have you done the right thing towards the guru? What is your attitude? Otherwise, till death, we are carrying that guilt in our mind, isn't it? I wish I had not done this. I wish I had not done that. But whatever the difficult situation may have been, but if we have interacted with our parents correctly, to the best of our ability, without any guilt, then it is fulfilled. If we are interacted with the society, how do you interact with the society? How do you clear your debt towards the society? By not creating disturbance in the society, by adding value to the society, by doing seva of the society. See? And the third is to the guru. How do you remove the debt towards the guru who has taught you? By realizing those concepts, those ideas. God is not a concept. But whatever the teacher has taught you, or the guru has taught you, or the guru within has inspired you to bring it, practice it in your life and realize it. And realize it. And this Kardam Rishi says, I have fulfilled everything, I have become free, so I am going. And in this way, he goes away and he says, Etanme janma lokesmin mumukshunam durashayat prasankhyanaya tattvanam sammatayatma darshane. And he says, the Lord says to Kardam Rishi, that is his father, he says, "O Rishivar, all the Vedic, the knowledge of the Vedas and the knowledge of the Dharma Shastra of the world, based those principles on which the world must, or the human beings must function, that has vanished from the society, because time is like this nowadays." Just now we were having discussion in the car. So Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, today that understanding is not there, it has vanished, isn't it? That's why the misunderstanding is spreading. So similarly in those times also, the knowledge, the dharma, the duties that we have duty towards our parents, we must have a duty towards the society and the guru, that has vanished. That there is some God also, sometimes that also gets vanished, or it becomes unmanifest. So he says, to revive that I have come. The Lord is telling his father, and in this way, and that I am going to do through the propagation of Sankhya Shastra. And in that, what I will be telling you is what is this Atma, what is this self, and it is a very, very subtle thing to understand. But I will be explaining it, and those people who follow that and realize that in their life, they will become free even while living, not necessarily after death. After death, nobody has become free. You can only become free while living. And how can you become free while living? If you become a devotee, if you remember the Lord, and in this manner, and having taken the Adesh, the Upadesh, the instructions from his son Kapil Muni, Kardam Rishi, he left his house, and with a detached attitude, with a detached mind, he started roaming around on the earth. And he became free from ego, became free from delusion, he became free from joy and sorrow, he became free from likes and dislikes, he became free from jealousy and envy. And in this way, being free of all these negativities or positivities, he raised himself up beyond good and bad, positive and negative, and wherever he was roaming around, he was having the darshan of the Paramatma all the time, inside and outside. Narad Muni also says in his Narad Bhakti Sutra, what if you want to love, you love like the gopis. Because what was the love of the gopis? They knew Krishna as Atma Swarup, and they knew Krishna as Pratyaksha Swarup. So they knew the Lord as their Atma inside, and they also with their senses saw the Paramatma as the Krishna in front of them. This is a very, very unique condition. Normally, we only want to see the Lord inside, and outside we have to give up. No, we have to come to that level where inside outside becomes one, and that can be brought about only by the devotion to the Lord. And that what happens when we become devotees of the Lord? Over a period of time, our mind becomes saturated by the divine name, and all the thought waves about the world which are erupting in our mind get replaced by the thoughts of the Lord. And when the only thought of the Lord is continuously repeated in the mind, eventually the mind, and as a result of that, all unwanted subconscious impressions become purified, that mind calms down. God does not need to remember himself. That mind becomes divinized. When that mind becomes divinized, all the thought eruptions that are taking place in the mind, they subside. Just like the moon on the ocean is always reflecting. But why can't you see the reflection? Because so many waves are there. So the moon looks as if it is broken in pieces. But the moment wind stops or the waves stop erupting, in the same place the in the calm waters, the moon's reflection is seen. Exactly the same way in here. The mind is nothing but thoughts. The thought waves, our attention is on the thoughts, so we are not able to see the divinity. When the mind becomes calm, the divinity automatically expresses in that calm mind. And in this way, this Kardam Muni with a Prashantamana. What is Prashantamana? That which is beyond Shant and Ashant. Sai Baba's place is called Prashanti Nilayam in Puttaparthi. What is Prashanti? That peace. Shanti means peace. Prashanti means absolute peace. What is that peace? Which is beyond peace and no peace. So such a person, whether there is joy, sorrow, he is not disturbed. Whether there is peace or there is someone is angry at him and someone is loving him, he is not affected by such a person. Such person alone is established in the truth. And in this way, nirahankrutir mamascha nirdvanda swamadrik swadruk pratyak prashant dhir dhira prashantorbhir avodadihi ichha dvesha vihinena sarvatra samachetasa bhagavad bhakti yuktena prapta bhagavati gatihi. Ichha dvesha vihinena, free of desires, free of likes and dislikes, sarvatra samachetasa, moving around in the whole world with an equanimous attitude. Bhagavad Bhakti Yuktena, having devotion to the Lord. Just because I am equanimous, this feeling didn't come in the Kardam Rishi that I have realized I am greater than everyone else. No, continuously remembering the Lord in his heart, Prapta Bhagavati Gatihi, he gained the divine union, and in this way, that union is called the experienceless experience as an experience. It is not an experience. I can experience you. I can experience this camera. I can experience a chocolate. I can experience my body. But I cannot experience God. In order to experience God, the experiencer, the ego, it has to vanish. And how does it vanish? By surrendering itself at the feet of the Lord. Bhagavad Bhakti Yuktena. So here this is a very important verse. Bhagavad Bhakti Yuktena Prapta Bhagavati Gatihi. The destination, the divine destination is gained only by surrendering to the Lord. Ego cannot reach there. It is the grace which will take you to that destination. In this way, Kardam Rishi and Devahuti having given birth to Kapil Muni, we saw in this chapter, in this particular incident, that Kardam Rishi has fulfilled the purpose of his life. Who are these 9 rishis? It's not that he is dead or he has gone away, no. All these rishis to whom his daughters were married, they are all still living. They are all still living. Vashishta Rishi, Atharva, they are all on this planet. See? And they will continue to be there till the end of the cycle of this creation. So, with this we come to this next episode or chapter where Kapil Bhagavan gives the instructions to his mother. And before he gives his instructions to his mother, we have to understand that when does the scriptural study become matured within us? When does it become matured within us? It becomes matured within us only when the appropriate practice has been done, isn't it? How do you become an expert chef, for example? Can you become a chef by reading books? Can you become a chef by watching My Kitchen Rules? MKR. By watching the TV or reading the book, you cannot become a chef. And appropriate practice is required along with it, isn't it? And when you put enough practice into it, day in and day out, keeping your mind on excellence, then that excellence will get invoked out of you. You will automatically learn new ways of doing things, even though they are showing one way, but you will find your own ways and try to create the best of the dishes. This is just one example, but in everything. And in this way, here it is told that one thing is study and the other thing is practice. You have been listening to me for so many years. You have been listening to me for almost 10 years, 11 years now. We listen. Sometimes we have so many discussions also. But just like we watch kitchen rules on the TV, you are watching me right now. After watching kitchen rules on the TV, if you don't practice, if you don't take notes, if you don't remember the recipe, if you don't put it into practice, will you get a dish which you can enjoy? Exactly in this show, this is the TV screen, you are watching this show going on. If you don't take notes, if you don't remember, so many things I have repeated so many times over 11 years. But if you are serious, you will remember what is said over the years. And then try to put it into practice in your daily life. And when you put it into practice into daily life, these truths which have been shared with you by way of scriptures, they will start becoming your own. Some things have clicked, but some things have not clicked. Why? Because we have not practiced. We have not checked the menu. We have not checked the recipe. We think we will remember. When we come to satsang, we think we will remember. But we don't. See? We don't remember. So are we serious? Or are we just taking it easy? That chalo, Swamiji has come, let him feel that someone is here and we are serious, we are sincere. I am not saying that way, I am joking. But think about, this is for your personal growth we are talking about. Because if you don't do it, when I go to Swamiji's class, when I studied with him for 2 years, if I did not put into practice what he told me, and if I did put into practice, to Guru Maharaj nothing happens, isn't it? For him it does not matter. Then for whom it matters? The one who puts it into practice. To the TV screen it does not matter. It has got its TRP. The show which was showing on the screen, they have made their money. And who is miserable? We are. Oh, what a nice dish, hope someone can make it for me. Nobody can make it for you. Nobody will make it for you. You have to make it yourself. Nobody can realize for you. You have to realize yourself. Nobody can do devotion for you. You have to do the devotion. Nobody can do the pujas for you or light the lamp for the Lord. If they light the lamp, they get the punya, you don't. Isn't it? It's like saying, oh, I am hungry. Acha, Bian, you eat the food and I will be satisfied. Is it possible? It is possible. Shirdi Sai Baba, it was possible. But we are not at that level, isn't it? Make yourself to be that level, where you see oneness everywhere. Then a dog eats, Shirdi Baba is full. But we cannot say that. But mother feels. Mother feels if the child's stomach is full, her child, not any child, her child's stomach is full, she feels contented, isn't it? She can go hungry, but she wants to see her child full. That is devotion. That is one feeling one with that child. But then they forget that, and instead they become attached to the child. So here, the Sankhya Shastra, the technology, the knowledge, the Gyan, the knowledge, that is given through Sankhya Shastra. And the technology, the application is told through Yoga Shastra. So you understand and you apply. You cannot apply without understanding. And you cannot understand without proper application also. They both go hand in hand. So if I tell you that please do japa, it will help you. Someone asked me about 3-4 years ago, Swamiji, how do my mind is so, the moment I sit on meditation or I go lie down on the bed, unwanted thoughts keep coming. How do I arrest this? I'm not even able to get a proper night's sleep. How do I do it? I said, okay, if I tell you, you have to practice. I can tell you. Nothing will happen by my touch or anything. He says, what is that? I said, okay. Pranavam dirgha uccharam manorajyam viliyate. Manorajyam means habitual thinking of the mind. Viliyate means it will be arrested. How? Pranavam dirgha uccharam. By elongated chanting of Om. Oh, really? Is that simple? I said, that's simple. After 3 years he comes again. Just a few weeks ago he came. I said, how are you? I have forgotten what I told him. He maybe met me somewhere. And I told him. He said, Swamiji, I got a big problem. I said, and when he told me the problem, suddenly I remembered 3 years ago I told him. I said, you are wasting my time or you are taking me for a ride. He said, why? I said, you are come with the same problem which you came 3 years ago. And I gave you a solution. So knowledge was given. But did you practice it? No, Swamiji, I tried 1 day and then 2 days, then we are married people, I have got my children, I have to drop them, I have to pick them up, I have to go to work, I have got this, I have got to take them for sports, blah, 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 blah. I said, I didn't ask you for that. I asked you, did you practice it? No. I said, then what's the point of you coming to me now after 3 years and coming with the same problem? When you have not, if you are hungry, you will make efforts to eat. You have to make efforts. If your mind is in trouble and a solution is given, you have to put it into practice. Then he went away. Now let's see if he comes. If he doesn't come, very good. Because that means he's practicing and it's working. People only come when things don't work the way they are supposed to. If you start practicing, then you don't need satsang also. Satsang, not in the sense, not in this, because you will be in satsang with the Lord in your heart all the time. You see? So here 2 things are there. One is the knowledge and the other is application. Both have to be practiced. And in this way, when we live in this world, the first step is that we must free our mind from likes, dislikes, desires, anger, greed, etc., etc., etc. And how does this happen? This happens by doing actions in the world without expecting anything in return. Nishkama karma. Nishkama means do activity which is not prompted by a desire. Are your eyes seeing because they are prompted by desire right now? Or you opened your eyes and suddenly and seeing is taking place? Huh? See, what is desire prompted activity? You open, you feel hungry. After this going home, you will feel hungry. And you have to satisfy your hunger. And then Food is there at home. Today it happened to us. We are coming from Glenorchy and we bought some mushrooms and soya and this, that and everything. And then Ashok said, Swamiji, do you feel like eating outside? I said, depends what you are feeding me. So he says, no, we can eat in some restaurant. I said, no, I don't feel. Amma got up in the morning and made all the lunch and we are going to eat outside. No. No, he said, no, we can eat. See, if eating is the to satisfy our hunger is the purpose, then whatever comes, whatever is available, you eat and fill up your stomach, isn't it? But then we put the choice. No, I want Chinese. Oh no, I think I want Indian. Oh no, I think we will have a pizza today. This is desire prompted activity. Otherwise, one biscuit is also enough to fill up your stomach. See? Diseases don't come because of food. Diseases come in our body, whether it is physical disease or a mental disease. It comes because of a wrong attitude, becomes because of a wrong approach to everything. That is why the problems come. And once we live a life of doing actions for the sake of action and not for the sake of satisfaction of our desires, our mind becomes calm, it becomes purified. And once it becomes purified, this habitual thinking which was going on, Manorajya, I'll put this heater off because everyone's sleeping. Shanti. Feeling cold already? Close the door. Close the door. So when we do the nishkama karma, when we do the actions without any desire prompted activity, then our unwanted thoughts which are erupting in our mind, they also subside. See, that is the second stage of our application. First is the world, second is the mind. And the third will be your attention on the spirit. But what we do normally, we come to satsang, we read the books, we go to various, we straight away want to reform the mind. Mind cannot be reformed straight away until and unless your interaction with the world is not healthy. And what do you mean by healthy interaction with the world? Live in the world in such a way that you do not disturb anyone in the world by thought, word or deed, and nor get disturbed by anyone's thought, word and deed. This is the right interaction in the world. See? Oh, but I cannot control my tongue. Then use that tongue to remember the Lord. Forget about don't speak to the people. You keep chanting. You have got a tongue, no? You cannot stop talking. Chant the name of the Lord. Change the theme of your talk. Change the theme of your thoughts. Change the theme of your actions. See? So nobody has said, in scriptures it does not come. Some places it comes, some places, but a higher understanding is in Bhakti Shastra, in Bhakti path, in the path of devotion, you don't have to give up anger, greed, jealousy, hypocrisy, ego, you don't have to give up anything. Then what you have to do? Use those negatives to remember the Lord. If you want to get angry, instead of getting angry with the people, become angry with the God. Why till today you have kept me away from you? If you want jealousy, if you feel jealousy, immediately feel, why you have still kept me, why am my mind is still feeling jealous? If you are present in everyone, how can I be jealous of anyone? It's your problem, you solve it. If there is love, instead of loving the world, why am I not completely unconditionally loving everyone? So if I am desiring the world, why am I not desiring you? So every emotion, every vikar is directed towards the Lord in the bhakti path. See? Now then what happens when everything is directed towards the Lord? What happens? Then your attention is not on the objects of the world, even though you are functioning in the world, but your attention is on the Lord, because every action is offered to the Lord, every result is offered to the Lord, every desire is offered to the Lord, every anger, greed, jealousy, love, like, dislike, everything is offered to the Lord, and responsibility is given to the Lord to purify or not to purify. That thought also doesn't come that I must purify or not purify. No, it's your problem. You do whatever you want to do. Think about it. And in this way, when we come to this point here, automatically as the mind starts calming down as a result of the remembrance of the Lord or the contemplation of the Lord, this knowledge starts revealing itself. Initially it begins blindly, the devotion, but eventually the culmination of devotion is knowledge. You cannot remain blindly believing in God. Blindly believing in God, then what happens? What is happening in Syria? What is happening in Kashmir? What is happening here also sometimes in Melbourne and in Hobart? What happens? I am Sanatana Dharmi. What are you? What is the other one? Huh? I am Arya Samaji. I am a Vaishnav. I am a Shaivite. I follow only this Swami. I only follow that Swami. And there also you create segregation. We don't develop the vision of seeing the one divine theme in and through everyone. Just like water has itself become all the waves and tides and tsunamis, similarly that one Lord alone has become Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma and all the Mahatmas. And here, because we have not done any sadhana, we see the distinctions everywhere and create cults out of them and get caught up and dig our own grave. So when we start, as a result of the devotion, when we start understanding, it starts revealing. What does it reveal? As you start taking the name of the Lord, the first understanding that comes is, I am not the body. I am the conscious principle, that the matter is something different, body is something different. Consciousness is that, the Purusha is that. When a person dies, that Purusha is not expressing in that dead body. That is the Purusha, the conscious principle. And that body is the matter. And we start understanding this. It starts revealing. No amount of studies is going to convince you, until and unless you don't have your own direct experience. No amount of reading what is sleep will ever give you the joy of sleep. You have to experience the sleep, isn't it? Then you will know, this is sleep. I had a wonderful sleep. Now the next person who doesn't know what is sleep, he will look at you, what does it mean? But I know, and we say, yes, I understand what you're saying. No words are required to explain to each other what sleep means, because we have both experienced it. But that third person who has not been able to sleep, or who has got no taste of a deep sleep, because he is continuously getting up, lying down, getting up, lying down, that person has to experience it himself. Similarly, this also we have to experience it. Then it will become our own. So when we start realizing this, then we see, once this realization comes that I am not the body, then along with that, spontaneously at that very moment, a new understanding dawns on our mind that I was there before this body, I am there while this body is expressing, and when this body goes away, I will still continue to be. This knowledge is the knowledge of the Sankhya Shastra. So, is there anything called death? According to Vedanta, there is nothing called death. There is only unmanifestation of matter and manifestation of matter. Is a death of a wave on the ocean a death? Because wave was essentially water only, no? So how can water die? You are calling it a wave, an imaginary name that you have given. And then when that wave vanishes or that water vanishes, you say, oh, wave has died. But wave did not exist. It was existing only in your mind. It was always the water. How can water vanish? Or if there is an ornament is there, a garland, a necklace is there, and you melt that necklace and you say, oh, I am so, the necklace has gone and I lost the necklace, and with the same necklace now you make a bracelet. So is the death of a necklace a real death? The same gold is again manifested in different way, isn't it? Exactly the same way. Death of a body, our attention is not on the body. Once we realize that there is these two things which make life, which is conscious principle and matter principle. Matter comes and goes, becomes manifest and unmanifest, and the conscious principle ever remains. Then this fear of death also goes away. And once this clicks inside, then the urge to be that consciousness, as that consciousness all the time, it holds you from within. Just like for some people, once they make some money on the share market, then they just get obsessed with it. They cannot stop, even if they lose the money. Those who go to the casinos and slot machines, they become paupers. They become paupers. They're not going to get anything in return. Here, what will become a pauper? Your mind will become a pauper. Because mind will have got no object to hold on to. Why? That mind is continuously putting every thought towards the Lord. That is the slot machine. The Lord is the slot machine. But unlike there, the slot machine only does not give back anything. Here, once the Lord has completely taken away your mind, He gives you back the total vision. And what is that vision? The vision of fearlessness. Such a person can never be afraid of anything, because fear only comes when we identify with form, when we identify with something that we are not. When we identify with something that is asat, that is not true. What is not true? That which is continuously changing. And in this way, so to bring this about in our life, we must take the name of the Lord, or at the same time, we must practice Vairagya. Vairagya means living an indifferent lifestyle, living a life of detachment. And that detachment, if we force it on our mind, it will be unhealthy. It must come about as a result of contemplation or remembering the Lord. That is the correct way. And in this way, the Sankhya Shastra is the technology. It is the technology, and Yoga Shastra is the application. And in this way, the Devahuti here, now see, the father of the Lord, can the father and mother of the Lord remain ignorant after the son is born? It's not possible. The father, he was a rishi, he immediately got the knowledge and he went away. But the mother is still there, and the mother she has lived very royally, and she has experienced the world intensely, but now the husband has gone away, the son is continuously meditating. One day she approaches the son and she says, uh, she approaches the son and she says, where is that? Here it is. She says that the mother of Kapil Muni, she was living along the banks of the Bindu Sarovar, and one day she approached her son Kapil Muni, and she, while she recognized him to be the Lord. What do you mean by recognized him to be the Lord? Her husband had already told. It's like you are walking on the street and one day suddenly you look at someone, I think she's my wife. I think she's going to be my wife. You just know it from within, isn't it? Or sometimes you go and you want to get some particular showpiece and it just an unstoppable thing. It comes. You must have seen it many times before, but that day it clicks that I think this will look very nice in that corner of the house, isn't it? Or this dress will look very nice on my child, or this car will look very good under my bum. Huh? So even though Kardam Rishi, her husband, had told her that it is the Lord himself who is being born from you, but it had not clicked to her. Because she was very extrovert. And here, she had done tapasya and everything. But one day, when she was living there, living a very sattvic life, suddenly this feeling came, my son is the Lord himself. And when that feeling came, and that recognition came, because a mother, Yashoda mother, can never take Krishna as the Lord. She wants to love him as her own son, isn't it? So many times this problem comes for mother to accept their child as the Lord is very difficult because the attachment is there. The recognition of the Lord will only happen when there is a detached attitude. And here, in that one special moment, by continuously living with the Lord himself, one day suddenly her vision gives and has an opportunity to see the Lord as the Lord. And having seen him, she asks, what does she say? She recognized her son as the Lord, and one day when Kapil Muni was sitting on his asan, on his meditation seat, Devahuti approached him and said, I am still living at the level of my senses, O Lord. She doesn't say my son. She says, my Lord. See, Arjuna also lived for so long with Krishna, but he lived as a friend. But when he was in the battlefield, he does not say my friend. Before, if you read Mahabharata, everywhere the word Sakha is used. Sakha means dost, a friend, a colleague, a bosom friend. But when they are on the battlefield and when he has a breakdown, he says, Shishyasteham shadhi mam tvam prapannam. He says, I am your disciple, I am surrendered at your feet, O Lord. Only when that attitude comes about, then transfer of knowledge is possible, isn't it? One person came, and you must have, maybe you have been guilty of it, or you must have known people doing this around you. Not guilty, but the approach. Someone says, Swamiji, are you realized? Swamiji, are you realized? Can you teach me? If someone comes with that attitude, will you be inspired to teach that person? Will you be inspired to teach that person? But if someone comes that, Swamiji, I am really interested in this topic and I really want to understand the Sanskrit language, and I have studied a little bit, but I don't want to get into, I am not very good at it. I am ready to start from the basics and scratch level 1, and please help me to become a master, to get better at Sanskrit so that I can read the Sanskrit language myself. Whom will your heart go out to? To this person or to the person? Swami, do you know Sanskrit? Why you are asking? No, I was thinking whether to study with you or not. Whom will you go for? And if that, and I want to see, I have studied this, I have studied that, I have studied this, I have studied that, then better not come. You come and take the class. I will come as a student. So if a person doesn't approach humbly, knowledge transfer cannot take place. If you come with arrogance, so already there is a wall in front of you. Even if the subtlest and the most potent knowledge is being communicated, it will not go in because there is a wall of arrogance in between. In order for transfer of knowledge from teacher to student, the importance is not of the teacher, importance is of the student. With what attitude, with what disposition they approach the teacher. In any field. Not necessarily in a satsang, anywhere, even in school or college. See? And see here, the mother is approaching her own son, having recognized that he is the incarnation of the Lord, he is the Lord himself. She approaches, she doesn't say, hey beta, your dad said that you are the Lord, and my time is coming close, please tell me what is the truth. It didn't come like that. She says, oh Lord, I have noticed that I am still living at the sensory level. Living at the sensory level means my senses are still attracted by the objects outside in the world. They are not withdrawn yet. Even though I have done a lot of tapasya, I have done so much sadhana which your father told me, and you are born, but still I find myself at the mercy of the senses. And now that you have taken birth as my child, and please make me free from this birth, rebirth cycle of. Please make me free from the cycle of reincarnation. Whenever we approach Mahatmas, these are the types of questions we must ask. We must not ask about the politics, about the gossip and about anything. No. The opportunity is there. Gain some knowledge, ask pertinent questions so that a transformation comes about within you. Just like if you are in front of a fire, the heat of the fire automatically takes the cold away, isn't it? You don't have to do anything. All you did was went in the vicinity of the fire. If you go too close, what it will do? Burn you. If you are too far, you will still be cold. But if you are at a safe distance, your cold will be gone and you will be comfortable. Similarly, with the teachers and masters, Mahatmas, don't become too familiar, don't become cozy with them. You will burn yourself. And what is that burning? That burning is familiarity. When we become too familiar with a person, what is the statement? Familiarity breeds contempt. We start analyzing, we start judging the teacher or the Mahatma. See? So maintain that safe distance. Listen to the teacher's words. Listen to the Mahatma's words. Read their books. And try to apply it in your daily life. Have faith. that what they are telling is the correct, is the right thing. Have faith that Lord has placed this Mahatma in my life. I did not ask him. He came into my life. He called me for darshan. I have that faith. That's why I go to Puttaparthi or I go to Ammachi whenever she comes, because that faith is there, that I am in the presence of a living Mahatma. I am in the presence of a person who has brought the mind under their control even while living. Isn't it? That's why that this person whom I am going to be, when I go in their presence, my mind is calm. I can experience that. So that Shraddha is there. So in this way, she says that I have come at your feet here. She says that please may your blessings be bestowed upon me, to her son. And she says, I have come to your Sharan, I have come to your feet. Now it is up. Please absolve me of all my attachments. And then she says, I feel that I am still caught up in my body. I still think that I am the body. I'm still caught up in the house, thinking that I have to take care of the house, I have to run the house, who will take care of you, this, blah, 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 blah. And the last is, and I am caught up in the child, in the attachment of the child. See? How do we get attached in the child? When you don't allow the child to be independent. Think. Leave them. They have come with their destiny. You cannot control that. You cannot control that. One parent can have a child as a scientist and the other one as a prostitute. You cannot do anything about it. If that is the way, that is the experience that it is written in the child. According to Yoga Shastra, the Jati, Ayu and Bhog. Jati, what species you are going to be born in, according to Yoga Shastra. What species? Are you going to be born as a human being or a plant or an animal or in the plant kingdom or animal kingdom? Which particular? All that is Jati. Ayu, how many breaths you are going to breathe, what is your lifespan is already predetermined. Bhog, what you are going to have, what experiences you are going to have in this life, that is also predetermined. So where is the question of the choice? No question of choice. With regards to what the world throws at us, we have got no choice. Then what choice? Where is the choice then? The choice is how do we interact with what the world is throwing at us? Do we react? Or do we remain equanimous? Or do we take it as the prasad of the Lord? Maybe there is some learning and Lord, however you want me to interact, I will interact. When your attention is on the Lord, even the worst situation that comes into your life, you will be calm and cool in that situation. But where ego is, my child, my son, my daughter, how can they do this? What will happen to our name? What will happen to what will our parents say? What will our community say? We have all gone through this. Our parents have done it. So our attention is where? It's not on the child. It is on our name will be bad because of your actions. So you behave yourself. But that child cannot do anything. Duryodhana was born. What can he do? Out of the 100 sons of the Kauravas, out of the 100 sons, all of them were evil except one who went and joined Pandavas. See? If they were all born from the same womb, how come one was good and others were bad? Think about it. Stop indulging in your children's life. Let them live their life. Your option is till they are 15, 16, 17 years old, give them some guidance to the best of your ability. After that, you have to leave them. If you don't, you are digging your own grave. Where? In your own mind. How? By becoming stressed, by becoming distressed, by becoming frustrated, because you find that life is slipping out of your fingers. Children are slipping out of your fingers. Because till we were kids, you were the control. Now that control is not working. Think about it. A time must come in our life, and preferably quickly. The moment children grow up. What is that? Like our Devahuti. She says, my mind is still stuck in this body, in the house and in the children, and she has only one child, or her 9 daughters. Why they are not married, why they are not having children, or how many children they have. I have to go and babysit here, I have to go and babysit here. Caught up. Get out of it. Purpose of life is not to babysit your grandchildren. Purpose of life is to control your mind, to be one with the Lord and experience that while living. That is our purpose. And here in this Australia, after coming here, we have got all the opportunity, all the challenges that we had in India or in our villages or townships as we are growing up, those challenges are not there right now. You got enough money, you got a house, you got mortgages paid off, there is hardly any disturbance around, no microphones blaring, loudspeakers blaring with namaz or bhajans, no politicians coming, not the general social order is also pretty good, a peaceful place, everything available at a short distance. In general, nobody disturbs you, isn't it? And yet, Lord has given you such a wonderful opportunity where you are at a very peaceful place in this stage of your life, and still we are not ready to contemplate on the Lord. Then what can He do? He cannot. He says, I have given you everything. But are you recognizing what I have given you? You're still after the money, you're still after the children, you're still after everything in this world except me. And I've given you everything. Imagine such people, those who are in Middle East or in Africa or in the slums in India, they don't have this opportunity. And yet we have everything and we have taken it for granted. Never be comfortable with your situation. So here Devahuti says that please may your blessings be upon me, that may this insistence of mine that I am this body, may this insistence of mine that I am the master of this house, that I am running this house, may this insistence that I have given birth to the Lord or to you, may this insistence be cut. All parents feel we have given birth to the child, isn't it? What is the truth? The child, the soul chooses the parents. But we are living totally opposite, isn't it? And then we put all our eggs in one basket called body, house and child, and then that we practice it so many times over the years that we become, it becomes concretized in our mind. Then we come to a satsang, we are told that, oh yeah, that sounds logical, but the moment we go out of the satsang, again the same thing, my child, my baby, my papu, my lallu. It doesn't stop. Then what? You have to remember alertly. Why the spiritual journey is not beginning in our life is Because we are absolutely convinced we are this body. We are absolutely convinced that we are a product of this world. And we are not convinced that there is something called God who is expressing through us. Our belief, our faith in God is less than our faith in this world. Even though the world has not given you anything until today, except trouble. And maybe few tidbits of joy, few moments, but majority is trouble only throughout birth till today. Yet we are not ready to learn the lesson and shift our attention to the divine. So when we listen to these type of stories, it is to wake us up. So she says, O Lord, you have removed the ignorance of all your devotees, those who come to you. Please tell me also what is the difference between Prakriti and Purush, what is the difference between matter and consciousness, so that, give me also that knowledge so that I can be free from the bondage of this world. We are attached to the world only because we are attached to the body. In this same world, Mahatmas also live. They are also living in this world, but they are not attached to the world. Why? Because they are not attached to the body. They are functioning through the body, but they are not attached to the body. They don't indulge in the body. Those who have seen Ammachi or Sai Baba, those who have heard, Ammachi hardly sleeps. You sit like her 24 hours a day hugging people and still having that same smile, a spark in the eyes and a fragrance coming out of her. We will be sweating. How many more? Don't they know that I am also a human being? I am getting tired. Our complaint will be like this. Does she ever complain? See? Satya Sai Baba, someone came to shoot him. He says, oh, the police came. They said, we will teach him a lesson. He will know now whose hands. He says, no, you are not going to do anything. He is free. He came to shoot me. I am setting him free. And that person reformed for the good. That is Sadhu Purush, who forget and forgive the faults of others at a drop of a hat. They don't carry anything in their mind. So here she is saying that I want to drop the world, I want to drop the body identification, I want to drop the idea that I have given birth to you and my attachment to you. Enough of it. I have lived enough of it like that, in that manner. Please make me come out of it. Give me the knowledge. When Kapil Muni heard the words of his own mother asking such questions, he became very, very happy. Became very happy. You won't believe it. You won't believe it. I've been giving satsangs for quite some time now. But you know, if I ask a question, who is the first person to answer my question? My mother. Because she's interacting with it, with the information alertly, vigilantly. She's not just passing time. And I have to applaud that. Not because she is my mother, but in the class, if I ask a question, what is tamas? I have said it 100 times. Nidra, alasya, and pramad. If I ask sometimes, suddenly the lecturer is going, what is tamas? Someone will say something this, something that, some procrastination. No, I am looking for a definition. Immediately from Nidra, alasya, pramad. If I ask something else, the answer, she is in tune. See? So here, Kapil Muni also is very happy that his mother has asked the question. And when a correct approach comes in the right manner, a question is asked, the Guru Maharaj, the teacher, or the mother also, for that matter, if the child comes and asks, Mom, give me a chocolate. Mind your own business. Mummy, you are the bestest mother in the whole world. Mummy, before he asks, Mummy will say, what do you want? Isn't it? It's how you approach. See? When you are in front of a judge, when you are in front of a doctor, and when you are in front of the immigration official, you behave the best. Automatically the best behavior comes out. Think about it. So this, where are we? He became very happy and he started giving the instructions to his mother, and he said, Yoga adhyatmika punsam mato nishreyasaya me atyanto paratiryatra dukkhasya cha sukhasya cha. He says, in the man's life, for auspiciousness to come into man's life, there is only one way. And what is that? He says, by practicing Adhyatma Yoga. Adhyatma Yoga does not mean running after gurus outside in the world. Adhyatma Yoga does not mean that you go after the statues, you go after from ashram to ashram. Adhyatma means within. Adhyatma means that which is your essential nature. Yoga of remembering the self is Adhyatma Yoga. Yoga of consciousness is the Adhyatma Yoga. Yoga of putting your attention into your own heart to see the divinity, the Lord who is residing there, that is Adhyatma Yoga. Adhyatma Yoga does not allow you to go outside and search for divinity, because till today nobody has found it in the outside world. All the Rishi Munis, in Prashna Upanishad it comes, the Rishi Munis are there, 6 of them, and they are married, they have children, and they got all the wealth. Each one is from a different school of, they have practiced something, and they have explored the world to its fullest, and still they did not find contentment. They did not find answers to the secret of this creation. They did not find the answer to the happiness. Even after all the wealth and even after having all the children who are good to them, the wealth is there, the puja archa is going, the society loves them, blah, 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 so many things. But still, there is some hollowness in their heart. Then they approach, all the 6 of them come to the teacher. After having lived the life in the outside world fully. But how did they live the life fully? Not running after the world. They were alert, they were discriminating. Am I getting out of this? Am I getting out of this? See, it's very easy to an intellectual person who is so convinced into something. It's very easy to change that person. Why? Because once he appreciates a different standpoint, he doesn't need convincing. He will convince himself because he sees the logic, he sees the vision that is being presented. And the person who is absolutely foolish not in the sense dull-witted, but a person who is ignorant. For such a person also it's very easy because no data in his mind. So in that person you pour the data, he believes like a child. But those who are in between, who think they know everything, who think they are the best parents, those who think they are the best thing that the society has got, those who think that they are the upholders of the culture and the religion in a society, they are the most dangerous ones. Because they are living in an ego, they are on an ego trip. Very difficult to convince those people. or it's not that we want to convince, but it's very difficult for those people to change themselves. Very intelligent, he will ask questions after questions till he gets convinced, because he can see a slit through which he can see the light, that yes, there is something. And once he convinces himself, it's not that we can convince anyone, they have to convince themselves. And the ignorant comes out of blind belief, he comes out of faith that whatever the teacher is telling must be right. Intelligent person comes with logic, and once his logic is satisfied, he understands and he sees the bigger picture. But those who are in between, they are the difficult ones. Those who think they know everything. And therefore such people, they keep running from guru to guru, they keep running from book to book, they keep running from temple to temple, they keep running from religion to religion. You must have come across many people like that. And they will not find peace anywhere. Will not find peace anywhere. So what is this Adhyatma Yoga? This Adhyatma Yoga is looking for the self within yourself. And when you are looking at yourself as yourself, there is no question of joy and sorrow. You rise above joy and sorrow. Kapil Muni says that I gave this yoga to Narad Muni in the previous period of time, and other rishis in a different avatar. The same yoga I am going to tell you now, and this individuality and the bondage and freedom, the moksha, liberation that we are seeking, and the bondage that we are feeling, it is all not because of your body, it is because of your mind. This is the first step. Recognize that bondage and liberation are only because of the mind. Because in the mind those two concepts are there. That I am bound and that I want to be free. See? And so here it says, Cheta khalvasya bandhaya muktaye chatmano matam guneshu saktam bandhaya ratam va punzi muktaye. So that mind which is caught up in the objects of the world is bound, and that mind which is caught up in the divine theme, on the self, the consciousness, the divine name, such a mind eventually becomes free of all the bondages. No, I want to know first, I want to be free and then I want to remember the Lord. It will not happen. First I want to know what sleep is and then I will sleep. You can never come to know. You have to sleep. Only then you will come to know what is sleep. Before what is, I want to taste the chocolate, then what is chocolate and then I will taste it. You will never know what the taste of chocolate is without having tasted it. You can write PhDs after PhDs on chocolate, but you can never come to know by listening or by reading. You have to experience it. You have to put it into your mouth. You have to roll your tongue around it. You have to suck it. Exactly the same way. Until and unless we do not, that we want to, first I want to know what Lord is, I will become convinced, then I will think of the Lord. Can't be. What is freedom? No, first tell me what it is. But how much we have told? How much the scriptures have told? Till we don't apply the mind on the divine theme continuously, till then we will not experience the freedom. And this mind is such a thing which has, it's a two directional, bidirectional. What is the word for it?
Two-way traffic.
Two-way traffic. It can either go outwards or it can go inwards. When it goes outwards, it becomes a source of bondage. It experiences bondage because it identifies with objects. What is the reason that it finds bondage in the objects or experiences of bondage? Because those objects are impermanent. Those objects are finite. Those objects are ephemeral. Those objects are continuously changing. So you can have a child, you can have a car. I bought a car today, I am happy very much. Next day accident, just now all my 22,000, I didn't even insure it. I was going to do it tomorrow. Gone $22,000. And yet, hey, take an insurance. No. So many people are driving without insurance, I will not have it. It may not happen, but when it happens, we don't know. Don't put too much attachment in your children. Why? No, yaar, one day they'll leave you anyway. No. What is the point of being a mother and this, that? No, love, but don't get attached. Anything can happen. No. Or people just speak like this and this and that. But if that child dies tomorrow, has a disease tomorrow, fights with you and leaves the home tomorrow, then I should have listened to Swamiji 10 years ago, And it happens. Is there any guarantee that this will not happen? But we believe in our own head that it will never happen to us. It may happen to the rest of the world, but my children, they will never do this to me. About 5, 6 years ago, one family I know, so I have seen the children grow up, they came to my classes, everything, and now the son is a doctor. 26 years they were married. Very satsangs in their house, everything going on well. Something taken for granted. Suddenly one day the husband comes crying to me. I said, what happened, man? No, Swamiji, I want to go for a walk. I said, let's go. What happened? रोने लग गया. Started crying. I said, why, man? What happened? Tell me. No, first you give me a hug. Let me cry. I said, okay, cry. No, my wife wants to leave me. No, why? I'm not going to ask why. Okay. No, this, that. I just kept quiet, told the whole story, whatever his side of the story. The wife never approached me till today. She is a very good friend of mine also. But till today she has never complained that why is he doing like this. Never even once. But this fellow, I don't know who is right, who is wrong. I said, whatever you are doing, it went on for 2 years. Then in the end I had to tell, listen, whatever you want to do, don't go to a lawyer. You sort it out between yourself so that money does not go to the lawyer. Whatever has to happen, has to happen. Why has she lost interest? I said, I don't know. You go and ask her. See? Why? This sadness, this feeling of not wanted, it can never be satisfied till we don't become spiritual. You will keep seeking someone. You will either seek up, like one girl was there, someone whom we know in Melbourne. She got married at a very young age. The husband said, I want to study, I want to do PhD, so I can get a job only after that. Till then, I got some stipend from the scholarship and you have to work. Okay, they had a child. She has a good job, so she got a house also. And the moment he got his PhD, he divorced her, took half the money and went away. And he said, you take the child also, I don't want. Think. Why this, why that, why this, why that? Again, found one person. And where she finds her person? In pubs. Then found another person. I think I'm in love with her. Got married. Again one child. Again that fellow, after a few years, left her, took half the money and left the child with her. Second time. How foolish can you be? How foolish can you be? Can't you see a pattern? The world can never bring contentment in our heart. Only the Lord can. Only the Adhyatma, only the way of spirituality, of searching the Lord, seeking the Lord, yearning for the Lord, thirsting for the Lord in your heart, can bring about contentment. See? And it does not mean that you will not live in the world. You will still continue to live in the world. But the world will not be able to sway your mind from that moment onwards. When you have committed to the Lord, the mind is available only to the Lord. The world, for the world, the mind is not available. So whether there is excitement, whether there is sorrow, whether there is problems, whether there are challenges, mind is not available to them. It is only available to the Lord. It sees the whole thing, whatever is unfolding as the Leela of the Lord. The Lord gives you that vision. चेत खल्वस्य बंधाय मुक्तये चात्मनो मतं गुणेषु सक्तं बंधाय रतं वा पुंसि मुक्तये. And in this way, the mind which is caught up in the objects of the world is a source of bondage, and that mind which is contemplating on the Paramatma, on the divine theme, or on the consciousness within, it is the source of, it experiences the freedom, or it is the source of freedom. And in this way, mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. So here in the Yoga Shastra also it is wrote, mana eva manushyanam, the mind alone is the source of bondage or of liberation. Because liberation is not something to be gained. Bondage is being experienced because of the mind. If the mind has dissolved, liberation is automatic. The mind is no longer there. I gave you this example. On the ocean, the waves are there. Because of the waves, you cannot see the reflection of the moon. When the waves have subsided, did you do anything to create the moon? It was already there. Exactly the same way. When mind is too agitated because of the world, you cannot see or experience the divinity within. When your attention is on the divinity, slowly, the mind will dissolve, the thoughts will reduce. When the thoughts, waves have gone away, that mind becomes like a mirror. In that mirror, the divinity reflects itself as it is. It's not that you create it, it happens. But you are no longer there as a individual, as an ego person. You are not there. Because your mind has vanished. That idea that I am an body, that I am a son of this, that I am a brother of this, that I am born on this date and maybe one day I will die. All this is a concept of the mind. But once that mind has surrendered and merged into the divine, no negative thought waves or positive thought waves are appearing on the mind. Then where's the question, I am the body, I am the mind, I am nothing there. And therefore it becomes a source of freedom. And in this way, we will look at what qualities are required in order for this devotion in our tomorrow's class, and then the inquiry into the the Purusha and Prakriti, the consciousness and matter. That will begin tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.